Now to our top story this afternoon. Classes are still in session for all JCPS students despite having to cancel more than 100 bus routes. That's because 143 bus drivers called out today, continuing last week's sick out over working conditions. That's a fourth of the district's drivers. Our Jim Stratman's joining us now live from the J-Town bus compound for what, Jim, you've heard from JCPS today.
That's right, Brooke. We've been in contact with JCPS officials all morning long, ever since they originally announced 58 additional bus drivers were going to be calling out sick today. That just before 6:30 this morning. And we're hearing more from JCPS officials really even as we speak. This coming on the heels of another sick out that happened on Friday, where we saw a number of bus drivers calling in sick to protest working conditions. These drivers tell us that they have a number of frustrations. Long hours, the new route system, as well as fighting and disobedience on the buses, just to name a few. Now, last night, 85 bus drivers called out sick, according to JCPS. This morning, that total number jumped to 143 drivers not reporting for work. Those drivers are responsible for 101 buses and 13 different compounds. Now, the compounds most affected were J-Town, where I'm at right now, the Hope compound, Special Needs West, and Berks, all of whom had more than 10 buses canceled today. Still, JCPS decided to go ahead with class. They sent out a note to parents saying that it would be on them to make sure that their students got to school on time, but any student absences would be excused because of the busing situation. District spokesperson Carolyn Callahan said that JCPS typically does not cancel bus routes, just delays them. She says, however, this was the best option available for today.
People are saying, why couldn't you just tell us last night all of the routes that were going to be canceled? There was absolutely no way to do that, because when you don't know which bus driver is calling out, you don't know which route to cancel. So we had to wait until this morning when all of those came in, and then we had to push out that information to families to let them know that those routes, unfortunately, did not have a driver to cover them.
Now, we've also reached out to the spokesperson representing the bus drivers union. They told us that they are not involved in this sick out in any way. They told us that this was a local sick out planned by drivers themselves. Now, at this point, it is also unclear whether or not this will affect busing tomorrow morning as well. That is something we're going to continue to work to learn as the day continues, and we will keep you updated, of course, both on air and online. Brooke?
Jim, thank you. And you heard from Carolyn herself right there. She'd also mentioned that they are disappointed that so many drivers have made the decision to not show up for work today, saying the people this hurts the most are our students. We will continue to monitor those call-outs throughout the afternoon. This is going to affect the PM riders as well. You can get updates straight to your phone as we get them by downloading the WHAS 11 News app. Well, it may not feel like winter, but with the unpredictability of weather, the city is putting us all on alert for the city's plan for major snowfall this year. And this year we have about 38,000 tons of salt stored across the Louisville area, most of it stored at the Louisville Mega Cavern. Pre-treatment methods for this year include brine, which is that salt water solution that makes it harder for snow and slick spots to stick on the ground. The snow team is a partnership of different public works from 4 city departments, including Metro Works, Parks, Metro Code and Regulations, the Fleet Facilities Department. It's also important to note that the snow team is always on call 24/7.
We've had some areas in Jefferson County that we have to monitor even when we don't have predicted falling precipitation. We have some areas where the temperature and the dew point are reaching that freezing area, and we can get some of that freezing fog and black ice in some areas.
Now, if you would like to follow along with the latest updates when snow hits the area, you can follow our social media apps by typing in LouPub Works, or for an interactive map for areas that are clear of snow or being cleared off, you can also head to LouisvilleKY.gov. Speaking of roads, $1 million in grant money from the Indiana Department of Transportation is headed to Jeffersonville. It's designated for vital street improvements like paving, which will begin next spring. Under this funding arrangement, the INDOT will provide up to 50% of construction costs for the designated projects. Today, we're also continuation of the Brett Hankison trial. Federal prosecutors will continue to lay out their case against the former LMPD detective accused of firing blindly into Breonna Taylor's apartment back in 2020. At the end of last week, prosecutors questioned Deputy Chief Paul Humphrey, Breonna Taylor's sister, and former LMPD officer Miles Cosgrove. Humphrey detailed LMPD's policy, saying officers must have a line of sight to fire their weapons. Meanwhile, both Taylor's sister and Cosgrove argued from Hankison's position that night it would have been hard for him to get a line of sight into Taylor's apartment. Hankison's attorneys argues he did have a line of sight through a crack in the window and was firing toward the sound of gunshots. Brett Hankison is facing federal charges for civil rights violations for his role in the raid that killed Taylor. LMPD detectives are investigating a mysterious death downtown. Just before 7 last night, detectives discovered a man's body inside of a car outside the Brown Hotel. That is the intersection of Broadway and 4th Street. LMPD said the coroner's office is working to determine his cause of death. And a Bullock County teen is in jail this afternoon charged with attempted murder of a Mount Washington police officer. 18-year-old Kenzie Van Arsdale was arrested Saturday after police said she hit an officer over the head with a screwdriver while resisting arrest. The officer is okay. It all began when he found the teen inside the city's locked park and tried to question her. Van Arsdale is being held at the Bullock County Detention Center. Well, tomorrow, as you might know, Election Day, polls open at 6 a.m. We do already know a bit about the turnout for this election, and that's because the early voting numbers are in. So over the course of the 3-day early voting period, 260,000 Kentuckians voted. On Saturday alone, more than 82,000 people across the state, including 16,000 in Jefferson County. Secretary of State Michael Adams said that early in-person voting is up from last year, but the absentee votes are down from last year. Adams says because of this, he anticipates voter turnout to be around 42%, on par with last. But before you head to the polls, make sure you bring a valid form of ID with you. That could be a government-issued ID, driver's license, or your passport. You are also allowed to bring scratch paper, sample ballots, and your cell phone into the polls with you. Also check out that full voter guide on candidates in Indiana and Kentucky, including the candidates for governor. Just head to our website, WHAS11.com. And then tomorrow night, when those results come in, you can count on the WHAS 11 news team. We'll be on the air at 7 o'clock for a full hour when those polls close in Western Kentucky. We'll also have live coverage on our digital platforms beginning at 8 and 9. And then make sure you watch the WHAS 11 night team at 11 for the live team coverage.